That's what they are, exactly. Hi, David. I can't remember the name of the book. It's the one with the pastel cover. I think it's either The Dream or Deception, Perception.
Yeah.
You talked about the AI astral matrix and the trouble after death, where you can't head for the light. But that was, about 10 years ago you wrote that? And I wondered if you've had any new information on that since.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting questions.
Perception, deception.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah, these are very interesting questions. That was the perception, deception. And it's funny, the perception, deception, that's what the conspiracy is. And so what I can start with is going on from that last question, because again, once I'd started to understand, like in the early part of the 90s, about this global cult and how it functioned, the next question was, when did it start? And you start going back, at least in our perception of history, that's a whole nother story. You go back into the ancient world and Babylon and places like that. And then the next question is, okay, it comes out through the Roman Empire, which was a massive, massive step on this road to global control. Okay, so people have been born, they've played a part in advancing this agenda in the secret societies, etc. Then they've died, and other people have replaced them and gone on. And this can be traced back a very long time. So there must be a force that spans that's been coordinating it all. And then you start going into other dimensions of reality. And, it's not difficult. When they reckon that the electromagnetic spectrum, which is massively our experience reality, is 0.005% of what exists in the universe in terms of energy in all its forms. And that visible light is a smear of the 0.005%. Some say it's as high as 0.5%. Doesn't matter, it's tiny. You realize that talking about other dimensions is hardly far bloody out. And where are those dimensions? They're here. I'm looking now. I'm seeing trees in the background. I'm seeing the buildings, people, chairs. And in between those people and those forms looks to me to be empty space. It's not empty space, but it's outside of what I can see, which is almost everything in terms of the human body. And so we're actually looking into another dimension now without realizing it. And so I started to, and again, this is an interesting point, which I can recommend to people. Ever since I started wanting to know, that intent draws towards you information in the form of energy. It's what information is, what everything is in the end. Well, not absolutely everything, but everything in the known universe, created universe. And that intent, I want to know, attracts to you this information. And so when I went on this journey in 1990, information, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it, was coming to me all the time in abundance, still is. And it's like when you come across a new subject which you haven't come across before, like the reptilians, for instance, suddenly, from all angles, information about that subject is coming at you because you're attracting it by your intent. And there'll be other reasons as well, I'm sure, but that's a key central one. And so I started to realize from 96 that actually there were entities operating outside of human vision. They do come into human vision with some people, but mostly out, who were orchestrating this global cult. And I started to see how, and I started to understand why these rich and famous people I was uncovering as part of this cult were again and again involved in sacrificial ritual and Satanism. And then I thought, why are they involved in it? How does Satanism and human sacrifice fit into this? And then you start to think, well, of course they've been doing this since the ancient world, into the ancient world. So what's going on? And you realize that what the ancients were doing their sacrificial rituals to, the gods, appeasing the gods, were the same entities, consciousness, distorted, that these people today in this cult are doing their rituals to. And so who were these entities? All over the world, we talk about the Greek pantheon of gods, Zeus and all these others. But actually, there's pantheons of gods all over the bloody world because they're the same gods. And they're these entities. And so I started to kind of get my mind around this other level outside of human sight that was manipulating this, manipulating humans through this cult. And then as you go, okay, so what don't I know? Then I get into this whole arena of a simulation, a simulated reality to control what? Perception of reality. And so then you think, why? Why are they doing this? And you start to realize, as you research this, through various and many sources, that these entities, which are in the end an expression of a distorted state of consciousness. People talk about Satan in Christianity and the devil. They talk about Shaitan in Islam. They talk about Yod-Baoth, the demiurge in the Gnostic belief system, and so on and so forth. That for me is, and they all have the same concept. And what I'm doing when I'm researching is I'm looking for patterns of agreement. You find endless patterns of disagreement in the detail, but what are the patterns of agreement? And there's a real obvious pattern of agreement that there is some force in the hidden from humans that are manipulating human society. And so I started to realize that these entities, this consciousness, was feeding off human energy, feeding off a particular type of human energy, low vibrational human energy, based on fear, based on anxiety, based on depression, based on resentment, regret, hatred, all these low vibrational emotional states. They were feeding off it. It's like Morpheus in the Matrix, who held up the battery and said, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these. And I started to realize, not just from ancient, the ancient belief systems in this bad copy of which is the simulation, but increasingly mainstream science is focusing upon the fact that this does look like it's a simulation. It does start to answer a lot of mysteries if you believe that. So why? One, it's designed to put humanity in a low vibrational state, thought, emotion, perceptional state, to feed off this low vibrational energy, which we're giving out all the time, depending on the thoughts and emotions involved. But there's one big thing, and I am coming around to the AI because this is a big punchline of this. They have to stop human awareness breaching the walls, the frequency walls of this simulation matrix, because beyond it, you start tapping in to the infinite level of reality beyond this simulated nonsense. And once you tap into that, whoa, everything starts to change. You start to see things, understand things, become aware of things intuitively, instinctively that you weren't aware of before, because you've tapped into that level of awareness that knows these things. You know, when you look through history, or what we call history, and you see these people who knew things, which even science today are only just kind of, even if they are even getting there, are only starting to get there, what they already knew. It's because they were able to tap into this level of awareness, like this infinite library of knowledge, which most people are not, because the idea is to keep you in a low vibrational state so that you don't breach the walls of the matrix. So you're in this world and you are of it in terms of the information that's available to you. And so I started to look at all the ways that humans are manipulated into low vibrational perceptual states. And it's endless, constant, all the reasons to fear, to be anxious, and it's all holding you in this low vibrational prison state. And what that means is they have to work bloody hard to keep that situation in place. They have to constantly control the information we receive, the experiences we have, all of it. And what they have been planning to do for a long time is to overcome that by connecting artificial intelligence to humans and fusing the two. In the words of Ray Kurzweil, this so-called futurist executive at Google, who's one of his great admirers is Bill Gates. That's how bad he is. By 2030, humans will be connected to artificial intelligence. It's already happening. And from then on, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. Deleted, in other words. And at that point, humans will be like a computer on someone else's internet, receiving their thoughts and emotional responses through artificial intelligence, and thus will never even consider questions like, who am I? What is this place? What's happening? Why are things as they are? And that is what is happening now with the Trump regime in America. Because what we had was basically the left in politics, to a very, very large extent, has just gone with this. And you can give them the hard sell, the Bill Gates hard sell, the Klaus Schwab hard sell. We'll be gods, the Ray Kurzweil hard sell. We will be gods if we fuse with artificial intelligence. But there was this big group, which has been getting bigger, of what I'll call pushbackers. They're people that go, this don't sound good to me. I don't want this transhumanist stuff. So the plan is you've got to get them on board. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. Now, if a Democrat had won the last election and was doing what Trump's doing, this group would be going apeshit. See, look what they're doing, transhumanism. So what they've done, it's all perception. What they've done is get Trump to be positioned as the hero who's telling the pushbackers what they want to hear. Bring on Elon Musk, who is the AI soft seller. Well, at least until recently. So some time ago, because this cult plays the long game, some time ago, you remember Musk came out and said AI could be the end of humanity. Ooh, I'm worried. But ever since, he's been introducing more and more AI and promoting more and more AI. And then he came to a very significant position where he said, look, AI becoming more intelligent than humans is inevitable. And so we have to fuse with humans so humans don't die out and get replaced. That's the soft sell. And it's an interesting thing perceptually, because when you're pushing back to stop something, you're in a certain mode, you're in a certain perceptual state. But once you're persuaded that what you're trying to stop is inevitable, you go into another mode, which is mitigating the effects rather than stopping it. So it's weakening your response perceptually. And so this is why the AI billionaire cabal has circled its wagons around Trump. Your Peter Thiel's, your Elon Musk's, your Mark Andreessen's, David Sachs, who's a close buddy of Peter Thiel and Andreessen and Musk. He's now Trump's AI czar, advising him on AI. And if you remember, 2 days into the Trump presidency, 2 days, you had Trump in the Oval Office wheeling out Sam Altman of OpenAI, another one of this AI cabal, billionaire cabal, and a guy called Larry Ellison, who actually is a big funder of Tony Blair. Larry Ellison of Oracle, and they announced this up to $500 billion AI investment program. And what's been happening this week is Trump's been out in the Middle East doing all these deals, most of which were done before he actually became president. But the central core of these, quote, deals is weapons of war and AI. AI investment by Middle Eastern oil countries in American AI and in their own AI. And this is because the whole idea is to divert attention from the pushbackers just think, oh, we're winning. Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that. While the real agenda goes unmolested. And once you've got heroes, this is a real massive point in terms of perceptual control. Once you've got heroes in which you invest the belief that they are the saviors of what you don't like, you start to give them so much rope and leeway that they get away with things that if the other, quote, side did them, you'd be on all over them like a rash. So what they did with Elon Musk, I knew when he bought Twitter it was a scam because I'd been tracking him for years. Because his companies, they're not really his companies, it's Frontman, but his companies were ticking all the boxes of this cult agenda. And so when he bought Twitter, but he didn't buy Twitter. He was allowed to buy Twitter. Twitter was controlled by what they call the deep state before Musk bought it. And people like me were thrown off and all that. And they were controlling what was seen and what wasn't seen, exactly what they wanted. And then when Musk bought it, he released these so-called Twitter files, some of them, which were confirming that the deep state controlled Twitter before him. So then you ask the question, instead of getting caught in this, oh, Elon's the hero, free speech, you ask questions calmly. And you say, why, when the deep state controlled Twitter, would they sell it to him, who's claiming to be a free speech absolutist? The last thing he is, of course, but that's what he was claiming. And so I looked at it and I thought, it's a scam here, and we're going to see what it is pretty shortly. And then I saw what it was pretty much immediately. Suddenly, Musk is the free speech hero of the pushbacker group, the target group in this scam. And before, they were pointing to Musk and saying, this guy is pushing the transhumanist agenda. But after he bought Twitter, stopped. They weren't anymore doing that. In fact, as I was pointing that out, I would get lots of abuse. Still do. Because I'm saying what was being said before, but you can't say it now because he's a free speech hero. And the coming together, therefore, in the summer of last year of Musk and Trump was perfectly explainable from this perspective. And it means that the exposure of Musk by this pushbacker group of the transhumanist agenda of fusing humans with AI and having a system completely controlled by AI, where if AI doesn't want you to do it, it won't allow you to do it financially and every other way. That can be rolled out unmolested. And that's what's happening. And so the real big picture reason is once that connection's made, you have a situation where you can hold people in a low vibrational mental and emotional state so that they don't start perceiving and asking the questions that you don't want them to ask. But having said that, this perceptual control, this matrix, is it's the two-stone weakling compared with consciousness. Consciousness, true consciousness you connect to beyond the limitations of this matrix nonsense. and you bring that knowledge and power and energy into this reality by that connection, it can override anything. Anything. And that's why they don't want you to do that. And why they're quite happy for this awakening, stop, no further, to happen, and not that awakening. They don't want that. And that's what the real AI agenda is all about, I would say.
Well, you could talk about that for many more hours if you go into all the other layers, but I think this covers it quite well. Go ahead.
So, what you said about Trump and everything he's doing now, I've seen a massive shift in the UK as well, with a lot of people going along with recall, and they want a strong leader like Trump, and they keep going on about it, especially on social media, mainly. And I also know people as well, personally. Where do you think that will end here? Because I'm a bit disturbed. Because some of these people I went on a protest with years ago, and suddenly they've shifted that Trump's going to take down this new world order. They're posting fake AI videos, which are blatantly fake, with Trump saying that Bill Gates has got a depopulation plan. It's all AI fake. But I'm just wondering how this is going to end.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we know that. Yeah, well, we all know that. What they're saying is that Trump is saving them.
Yeah, that Trump's saving them, that he's against Bill Gates. So they think they're against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the point is, you just asked a question, and all it took to ask the question was to move your vocal cords and your mouth, right? That's all it takes Trump to do. That's all it takes Trump to do. Words are so easy. Actions truly do speak louder than words. So I remember when the Trump election campaign was on, that the claim was that Trump would arrest Bill Gates and put him in Guantanamo Bay. Then he invites him to Mar-a-Lago. So, and then, you know, this is another thing with the hijacked, as I would perceive it, alternative media, is that it's regressed from realizing that and working from the perspective that we live in one-party states to two-party states. I have to bloody laugh when I'm seeing your Alex Joneses talking about the deep state being the Democratic Party. I mean, please do. What's gone on? So you have this regression into the left-right puppet show again, which I thought we, got out of. And then you look at this across countries. So you have Donald Trump, who's talking against the global warming and net zero, because he's telling his audience what they want to hear. You have him saying all these things that they want to hear. And then in this country, you have Keir Starmer. Now, Keir Starmer stands for everything that Trump doesn't on the surface. He's got this lunatic Miliband who's turning the countryside into and the seascape into wind turbines and solar farms to solve a problem that doesn't exist. And he's doing the things that that Trump wouldn't do, because his base wouldn't have it. And yet they're mates. They're working as one unit. And, in this country, or every country, one of the things I think we need to clear our minds of and clear our perceptions of is that politics is there to change anything for the better. It's not. It's there to keep the status quo and to advance this agenda. You've got Trump saying he wants to turn America into the AI center of the world. You've got Starmer saying he wants to turn Britain into an AI superpower. You've got the EU saying the same. You've got China saying the same, doing the same. And then you've got the classic, in terms of the AI question before, where they're saying, oh, we've got to have AI. We've got to advance AI because China's doing it. We can't let them win. And they turn it into a battle. They turn it into a sporting event. But in the end, China and America and Britain and Europe are actually controlled by the same codes. Doesn't have borders. That's for public consumption. And so that what the outcome of it all is that this AI agenda goes into overdrive. And so if we can clear our minds of the fact that politics changes anything, we might have a bit of a chance, because there's I wasn't very good at maths at school, but thank you God, I couldn't stand maths at school. But you've only got to use basic mathematics. There's 8 billion people in the world, and the number of people that are running the show are frickin' tiny by comparison. And the only way that you can achieve that with so few people is compartmentalization of knowledge, controlling the perceptions of the population, and giving them different belief systems, not least religious belief systems, that you can play off against each other. And political belief systems you can play off against each other. That's what they're doing. And so in this country, we have the Labour Party that is now the government after winning a third of the vote. That's not democracy, that's ludicrous. We have a Conservative Party that's in free fall, and now we have the upcoming party, which is Reform, headed by a guy called Nigel Farage, who I wouldn't trust to tell me the time in a room full of clocks. But he's what is he doing? He's a mate of Trump. What is he doing? He's telling people what they want to hear. This is how politics works. You tell them what they want to hear, and then you get their vote, because there's no comeback. You don't have to do what you said you would do, and you don't not have to do what you said you wouldn't do in the campaign. You just tell them what they want to hear. They vote for you. You come into power, and you do what you planned all along. And so we have Farage, who is telling people what they want to hear, okay? But this is the same Farage in early 2021 who said that Tony Blair should be vaccine czar. And now he's complaining, oh, people are getting damaged by the vaccine. Well, your job was to see that when it was bloody happening, mate. But it wasn't, because he's a system man, Farage. Okay, I agreed with what he was doing about the Brexit and all that stuff, but he's a system man. And I've seen so many examples of it. And so if he gets into power, what he says he will do won't be anything like what he will do. And what they're doing is buying time. Time doesn't actually exist, but you know what I mean, our perception of time. They're buying time. So if you have a period to get to this point where you want, which is AI human fusion, you've got to keep the population occupied perceptually so it doesn't have the penny drop. There's 8 billion of us and there's a few of them. I think I see a way out of this. So you sell them politics. And what was happening is at one time, they were controlling the people by inherited control through royalty. And there came a point where the population matured enough to say, we're not having that anymore. Well, we still got it in this country. We're not having that anymore. So they had to find another way of controlling people. So they came up with politics. And politics is a very simple structure. You've got probably two parties, in some countries 3 parties, that have any chance of forming a government. And they're all pyramids, like secret societies. They're compartmentalized pyramids. And if you want to go into politics, you first of all in this country have to persuade the constituency party to pick you. And to do that, you have to tell them what they want to hear, which is what they at the top of the party want to hear. So you then become a politician if you're elected. And if you're going to progress up the greasy pole in politics, you've got to keep you've got to keep the people running the pyramid happy. You've got to become manipulatable. You've got to become you've got to obey the party line. There's the very idea that we have whips and 3-line whips in Parliament is a disgrace. Should never happen. That alone tells you what's going on. And the other party, as in chance of forming a government, that's structured in the same way. But the key is that if you go one step into the shadows from the top of these two parties, you are looking at the same force that's working through both of them. So if you vote for Party A and you don't like what they do, well, you say, okay, I'm going to give the others a go this time. They're terrible. So you vote for Party B. And you don't like what they do because in the end, they're going in the same direction. They'll use different rhetoric, but it's the same direction. And so to get rid of Party B, you've got to go back to Party A. And this is what goes on all the way through politics. I was in Ukraine in 2010, and they had a president called Yanukovych, Viktor Yanukovych, who'd been thrown out in the Orange Revolution. What? They threw him out in the Orange Revolution. I think it was 2004. They brought another guy in the revolution, and they didn't like what the other guy did. So at the next election, Yanukovych was still leading the other party. So they voted back in a guy they threw out in a revolution. And then they threw him out again in the Median revolution, and he's now in, which brought in this guy now, Zelensky, and now Yanukovych is in Russia. It's ridiculous, and that's a trap. And once they get in, if you think, okay, well, you can't not obey the law. Well, hold on a minute. You've had no say in what those laws are, because what Starmer's doing, what he did immediately with putting people in jail for Facebook posts and stuff. So you didn't mention that in the campaign, Mr. Starmer. I would have remembered. And then you've got Trump, never mentioned Canada as a 51st state, and we're going to take Greenland and Panama and all the rest of it. No. Where did that come from? So you've not really had a say in it. But you can't break the law, you know. Well, if we think that, well, that's it, really. We were breaking the law during COVID with the protests. But there were so many people in the end that were doing it, there's nothing they could do about it. And if we don't have this penny drop of the numbers that are being manipulated against the numbers manipulating, and that politics is not the answer, it's a vehicle for the problem, then what will happen? You invest in the next hero in this country. I didn't like that Starmer. I'm going to vote for Farage this time. Won't make any difference of any substance because it's not meant to. And so the point is, I mean, I saw a guy, what's his name, David Clues, who runs an alternative operation, and he says a lot of good things. I don't agree with everything or anything like it, but he says a lot of good things. But now he's come out and said, vote reform. And his point is that there's not going to be a people's revolution to bring this thing to an end. So we're stuck with politics, and this is the best one. Well, my approach to that is, if there's not a people's revolution where we put down the fault lines of divide and rule and say we're not having it by ceasing to cooperate, then, well, it's over then. Because politics is not the answer. It's taken us to the edge of the same cliff. And you know, when I was involved in those COVID protests in London, you really thought we had a bloody chance because, as I think you mentioned, it wasn't so much a protest. It was like a spiritual event where all these people that would think of certain things in a different way, they put all that down because we had a common threat, which was the fascist regulations and impositions of COVID. And people came together, and it was fantastic. And in the early days of the COVID hoax, you had a few people protesting, and the police would move in, arrest them all over. And by the end, we had like 100,000 people marching through London, and the police were standing on the side of the street watching us go by. Nothing they could do. Now, hello. Look at it. There's authority. Where are they? Watching you walk past. Why? There's so bloody many of you. And there's so many of us. And you have the belief systems dividing. And when that penny drops, it's going to be over very quickly. And it doesn't have to be a violent revolution. I don't want a violent revolution. It's a revolution of non-cooperation. You know, they come out of Downing Street or the White House and they say, well, we've had a discussion. This is what we're going to do. If enough people say, we're not doing it, mate. We're not doing that. No. Where's their power? See, power is not with authority. It's with the acquiescence of the people to authority. Fascism and communism is never imposed by communists or never happens because of communists and fascists. There's never enough of them. Fascism, communism, and tyranny comes in because of the acquiescence of the population to fascism, tyranny, and communism. That's how it happens. It's happened in Germany. It happens everywhere that it goes on. And this is what they want to overcome, this chance of the penny dropping. This is what they want to overcome by having AI human fusion, so that people would never even think of it. That's the whole bottom line of it.
Thanks, David. So we've got time for one more question, and once that's answered, we have two lovely musicians doing something very special. They'll announce it themselves. So one more question, so I'll give it to
Simon.
Hi, David.
How are you, mate?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all right.
Okay, so my question is possibly a little bit longer. I need to frame the question. Can I do that?
You do surprise me.
Why use a sentence with a paragraph and douche?
He used to have verbal diarrhea at one time. He's had all the crystal therapy and everything, but
okay, so,
it ain't touched it.
so my question is, it goes like this. I have
struggled often through my life working out what I believe in, and eventually I came back to God and Jesus, but not through religion. I discovered through meeting different people describing things in different ways that Christ could be recognized as the frequency of unconditional love, finding its way back into the hearts of anyone in the human race who can tune in, where before he came as an individual to represent what it looks like to be fully connected to source, just like Buddha and some modern day gurus. Like, if Jesus was real, and I wasn't there, I can't tell you he was, he would probably say of you, yeah, sure, he's a Christian. He doesn't take shit. He fights for only the truth, and he would never do to anybody else what he wouldn't want done to him. And he knows about karma and balance and being decent. Those are Christian values, right? When you speak about religion and Christianity inside of that, and it feels like that's all a smokescreen. Half of me agrees with you. And another half of me that knows that unconditional love is the way, and understanding that the space between us is filled with that, but it's invisible, it's off the spectrum. I guess my question is, can you imagine thrashing this out with me in a podcast where by the end of it, it really looked like we are on the same page and we have the same belief systems, but we just speak about them in completely different ways? Which, if it did, would possibly make a whole lot of people who would regard you as an atheist because they don't know you, to understand that you are spirit incarnate, just like everyone else, just expressing it in a really blunt way. Can you see the value in this?
Well, I can respond to the question, Simon. Yeah. You see, there are people that, and I say this all the time, there are people that express their spirituality through religion. And I have no problem with that. It's none of my business anyway. I can only give my opinion. The thing is, I've got those values and other values, and I've got a way of seeing reality, of seeing the nature of infinite love, if you want to call it that, infinite wisdom, all these things. And I don't need to believe in Jesus for that. And I don't believe I'd have to believe in a religion for that. It's just a personal connection. So, you know, people get to various positions in different ways, but I've never felt the need for any of that or any of that structure. And if people get there that way, that's fine. But the story of religion is overwhelmingly the way it limits perception of reality. Because, you know, I've met a lot of Christians, especially in America, who don't promote Christian values, say the bloody least. So it's not the religion in my view. It's what you are, and you can use the symbol of Jesus and as you know, the Christ consciousness or whatever, but it's not necessary. It's just the way that people articulate the way they feel or what they believe. You know, you can connect with infinity, with the infinite, of which we're all a part. And of course, if you say you are an expression of, quote, God, or the infinite, as I would call it, infinite consciousness, that's blasphemy in many religions. You can't say that. Well, so you're telling me that I cannot be an expression of infinity. You're telling me I have to be little me down here and God has to be up there. And when Jesus comes, I have to bend the knee. Sorry, well, ain't happening.
But we would both agree that that's the ignorant side of religion.
Yeah, ignorant side of religion, yeah. But what I'm saying, Simon, is that you can go beyond the ignorant side of religion without religion. It's not necessary. Now, some people may want to go there through that means. That's fair enough. None of my business. I'm just saying it's not necessary. And the negative side of religion, the ignorant side of religion, is a massive suppressor of awakening. I know. I mean, I've traveled America endlessly and come across the religious right, and it's an extraordinary thing because they're not Christian, and they talk Christian values, but they don't actually express them, and it's just not necessary. None of this stuff is necessary. This is all a frickin' illusion. This thing we call the human world. We are decoding it into what appears to be a physical world. It's actually it's all going on in here. It's like a computer decoding the internet, and so we think that this reality is outside of us. It's actually in here. You know, when you have a computer decoding the internet, it doesn't decode it out here or out here or out here. It decodes it inside the computer, and that's what we're decoding it. We're all like biological computers decoding this reality. That's why we can only see a fraction of perceived visual reality with invisible light, because that's all this biological computer will decode. This is a prison, if we allow it to be, that can constantly dictate our sense of reality. Whereas if you expand your awareness beyond it, you see a very different reality to what this sees. And I don't think you need religion to break through into the infinite. I think that's our natural state, and I think religion gets in the way. It's just my view.
Sorry, I'm just going to extend a little bit into the Simon theme, and that is, some people say, okay, maybe Jesus didn't exist, and religion is all a whatever, but it's all about Christ consciousness. What would you say to that?
Well, Christ, Messiah, mean anointed. So it's about anointed consciousness then. Yeah. What's that? No, it's a word. You can call it Christ consciousness, and to you, that means expansion of awareness. No problem. What I'm saying is you don't need that. You just need to expand your awareness. It's all these structures and these labels that we give things. It's like, don't think about it, just do it. Don't necessarily have to go through a religion. You just do it. It's a personal connection, and whatever name you call it, it doesn't matter unless you call it a name and it's something that limits you. But it doesn't matter what you call it. If you call it Christ consciousness, well, so call it Christ consciousness. But it's just connecting with the infinite. Infinite awareness, which gives you a completely different insight of everything, including personal self-identity. But I don't see why you need these words and labels. Just my view, anyway.
Thank you, David. And Simon is raring to go. No, but I get it, and I know what it is, because you open a field and you start going back and forth. And so I think let's keep that maybe for a podcast. Let's talk about the possibilities of that, because I do think it would be very potent. But for now, it's a long sit for David. So I want to thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks.
For this lovely, intimate audience here. And
thank you. Thank you.
And last night you weren't here when we were sitting around a beautiful bonfire, and Jesse and Benji from the Netherlands were singing pure divine soul flow. And we kind of decided last night that they were going to compose something specially for this. So I'd love to give you the stage right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So this song, we basically, I think we wrote it just 1 hour before you came on.
Whoa.
So I hope it's still in the mind. We did write it down, fortunately. It's called Maverick.
All right.
Maybe you can sing along a little bit sometimes.
Okay, I'm just.
Do you sing, David?
I'm gonna. If I want to clear the place, yeah. I'm just gonna get out the sun.
Yeah. So everything is vibration, but it would be nice if we are tuned correctly to each other. So we were in the workshop with you, I believe, the lovely workshop about systems, and then at some moment I had a groove in my head, and you'll hear it in a bit. And I was sort of writing on my phone to yesterday, like, hey, how fast do you think we can write a groove song for this? And he was like, gosh, you really mean this? And that's why we got up and left a bit early to write this. Shall we just give it a shot? Let's do it. Lovely. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mavericks, gatherings, free and unbound. Mavericks, get your kicks. Love is all around. Mavericks, we are here. There's no courage without fear. Mavericks, Mavericks, Mavericks. All together, we gathered here from the top of the world to the Isle of Wight. We sing together, we breathe together, trying to figure out this reality. Storms will come and storms will roar, shake the heavens, shake the floor. Storms will energize our soul and make us whole. Mavericks, gatherings, free and unbound. Mavericks, get your kicks. Love is all around, yeah. Mavericks, we are here. There's no courage without fear. Mavericks, Mavericks, Mavericks. All together, we gathered here to find truth in a broken world. Let's break free and remember who we are supposed to be. Storms will come and storms will roar, shake the heaven, shake the floor. Storms will energize our soul and make us whole. kicks. Love is all around. Mavericks, we are here. There's no courage without fear. Mavericks, Mavericks, Mavericks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Something ain't right. Everything you need to know is here on the Isle of Wight. Come on, one more time. Mavericks, 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 we are here. There's no courage without fear. A maverick, a maverick. One more time, come on. A maverick, a maverick. A maverick, maverick. Mavericks, we are here. There's no courage without fear. The Mavericks, the Mavericks,
Nailed it, guys.
Amazing. Somebody wants to say something.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't say a lot normally.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish on this. It's about how things are really simple when we think they're so complex. And, you know, when I started out in 1990, the only arena that was in any way interested in what I had to say was what was called then the New Age. And I would be invited to speak to not many people in these various conferences. I was always in America. I was in the back room at the end of the night, but it allowed me to see loads of these different speakers and people and ways of looking at the world. And it all sounded ever so complicated. The awakening process, you know, was so complicated. You have to do this. You have to go on a quest, drink green tea and things like that. And I can't stand green tea. I must be condemned. But for me, it's so bloody simple. And it's all about self-identity. You know, the way that we are trapped in a fake self-identity, what I call the phantom self, is by self-identifying with the labels of a human life. Like, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm this color, this religion, that religion, whatever, this culture, that culture. And these self-identities, if you don't see them for what they are, which is an experience that consciousness is having, but they are you, not an experience, they are you, then you get caught in the self-identity of limitation, of I can't, of it's not possible. And for me, the awakening process is simply a redefinition of self-identity. To, I am not the labels of a human life. They are experiences, brief ones. I am all that is, has been, and ever can be. I am ultimately infinity, having a brief human experience. And that self-identity expansion from I am the myopia of my human labels to I'm all that is and has been and ever can be, automatically expands your awareness deeper and deeper and deeper into the infinite field. Because as you expand your self-identity, your sense of the I, so you expand into that sense of the I, just as identifying with the labels of a human life concertinas the I into a few labels of a human life. And as you expand your awareness by expanding your sense of who you are, suddenly you start to access things, knowledge, awareness, insights that take you out into understanding at a level of who you are as opposed to a level that you thought you were and were told you were. So I think for me that a redefinition of self-identity, if enough people had it, would transform everything. Because from that expansion of self-identity into the infinite, you don't fear anything anymore. So what can they do to me? I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be. You know, fill your boots, because I'm beyond all this stuff. This is a brief illusion, a brief dream, an induced dream in many ways that we're having. It's not who we are. It's what they want us to think we are, so we're controllable. Self-identity is the key for me.
Thank you.
Okay.